Golden Glass, a Lego Monkey Kid fanfiction written by Jukebox Draws, read by Jukebox Draws. Chapter 7, If You Love Me. Something was horribly wrong. You didn't have to be an idiot to see the change, and Kai was no idiot. Macaque, who had once been gentle and kind, was now loud, obnoxious, and took every opportunity to make as many inappropriate comments about his partner's body as possible. It had only been 3 days, but the difference was night and day. Kai woke in the morning to their boyfriend's rough hands wandering over their chest. They inhaled sharply. "Good morning," they giggled awkwardly, feeling Macaque's fingers on their most sensitive spots. "Mac, I'm not really in the mood today." They peeled the shadow demon's hands off them and moved to get up. Macaque wrapped his arms around their torso again, petting them flush against his chest. "Oh, come on, baby," he growled into their ear, making them shiver. His hands moved to go underneath the oversized t-shirt they had worn to bed. Kai grabbed his wrists. "Macaque, I mean it." They began to get more frantic. His growling began to get less sexy and more menacing. "You don't mean it, baby. Come on, you always love morning sex." Was he doing what Kai thought he was doing? They gasped as his tail curled around their thigh. "Macaque, stop!" They began to panic, struggling to get out of his grip. Had he always been this strong? Macaque let them go. Kai stumbled away and pulled their tail nervously. "Jeez, babe, so dramatic." Macaque yawned and stretched, cracking his back as he stood up. "Want coffee?" Macaque left the bedroom, as if nothing had happened. Kai stared at the empty doorway in disbelief. They clutched at their chest, trying to slow down their erratic heartbeat. What the fuck was that? That night, Macaque had asked for sex again. Kai obliged, since they were in a bit of a mood themselves, and hopefully this time would be better, since they weren't caught so off guard. And it was better. Until they felt Macaque's teeth sink into their shoulder. "Ow!" they cried out, gripping his shoulders tighter. "Macaque, what are you doing?" "Marking you," he said simply. Kai rubbed their shoulder, feeling the small drops of blood from the wound. I told you not to bite!" They gripped the sheets tighter. Macaque smirked. "Well, if you love me, you'll let me bite you." Kai froze. Their brain went blank. Suddenly they couldn't think. They couldn't breathe. Was this hell? What? "You love me, don't you?" Kai began to tremble. "Noodles," they said. Macaque raised an eyebrow. "Noodles?" he asked, obliviously. Kai's brow furrowed. Macaque forgot their safe word? "Noodles," the copperford simian said. The shadow demon laughed. "You're always so silly, babe." He gripped their hips tight as he continued. Kai cried out and immediately moved to defend themselves. It seemed those self-defense classes they had taken in high school had been worth the money. They grabbed Macaque's shoulder, moved their knee against his stomach, and pushed hard. Macaque cried out as he was flipped over, off the bed and onto the floor. "I said noodles!" They nearly screamed as they pulled the blanket over themselves. "That's our safe word, Macaque, don't you remember?" Kai began to panic. Macaque picked himself up off the floor and rubbed his head. He groaned. "I don't really believe in safe words," he said. Had he established it just to lure them in? Was this really what Macaque was like? "Macaque, what's gotten into you?" they asked. "You're like a totally different person." "This is me," he said, holding out his hands as if presenting himself. "If you don't like it, tough luck." Kai quickly pulled on their clothes, grabbed their keys, and ran out of the room. They had to get out of here. Wandering the street, Kai eventually found themselves at Pigsy's Noodles. They walked in, sat down at the counter, burying their face in their arms. They felt lost. They felt broken. Macaque had completely changed, and in their opinion, changed for the worse. "Dr. Jin!" MK smiled and waved as he placed the last of his to-go orders into the delivery truck just outside the door. Kai gave the monkey kid a strained smile. "Is something wrong?" MK asked, looking a bit concerned. "You seem tired." I'm okay." Kai ordered a bowl of noodles from Pigsy and sighed. MK shrugged and drove off to deliver the orders. Wukong flew into the shop on his somersault cloud, laughing as he plopped himself down onto his favorite stool. "1 bowl of noodles, please, Piggy," he requested happily. Kai watched the great sage with interest. Hey, Wukong, can I talk to you? Kai asked as Wukong took his bowl of noodles and began slurping away. Shoot, kid, he said with his mouth full. When you were with Macaque, was he ever forceful in any way? Wukong took time to slurp his noodles and swallow. No, not at all, actually. He lost his smile as he thought about it, focusing really hard on remembering. He was always pretty considerate, though quick to jump to conclusions about things if I didn't talk to him enough. Wukong ate the egg that came with his meal. Why do you ask? Well, the last few days he's been different. Kai rested their arms on the counter, staring at the bowl of noodles in front of them. Suddenly, they had lost their appetite. Different how? Pigsy brought a pot to the counter and began stirring it. He raised a brow as the therapist now had 2 listeners. Well, he's more obnoxious, honestly. Overbearing, and he nearly forced himself on me this morning. Kai wasn't sure why they were being so open with these almost strangers, and one of their patients, for heaven's sake, but they felt they could trust them. He did what? Wukong nearly spat out his noodles. Over the past few months, he had come to view the therapist as his friend, just as Macaque had, and he'd be damned if anyone was going to hurt his friends while he was around. He's acting like my ex, and I don't know what to do. Kai rubbed their eyes and tried to get the tears to stop. He forced himself on you? Wukong grabbed Kai's shoulders. Do you need me to go teach him a lesson? No, Kai said quickly, removing Wukong's hands from their shoulders and wincing a bit at the pain of the bite mark under their sweater. No, I just wanted some advice. Is there something wrong with him? That doesn't sound like Macaque. Tang, who had been sitting on the other end of the bar, pushed his glasses up on his face. He may be morally gray, but if there's one thing he doesn't do, it's force himself on people. Especially his partner, Wukong added, scratching his chin. Sit him down and have a talk with him. I'm sure it can be worked out, whatever it is, if you just talk about it together. Pigsy smiled and gave them a neatly wrapped piece of cake. This one's on the house, kid. He winked. Kai smiled softly and thanked the group before leaving the shop. On the way out, they giggled as they vaguely heard Tang complaining about never getting free cake. To be concluded in Chapter 8.